Welcome to the Love Government. I'm Dennis Leary, and we are doing a series of talks here called Sex Lover. This will be the second in this series. The Love Government, and my computer's behind me, or should be, where you might be able to see the website. On the website it starts off with saying that we're telling the greatest story ever told. And we are telling about the greatest structure ever built, the greatest relationship ever entered into, and the biggest game ever played. And that's true, I believe. It's the game of love. It's a story of love. It's a relationship of love. And what could be greater than that? I can't think of anything greater. We're doing something that's really fun, it's enjoyable, and it's very beneficial. We are into now developing the story, this meta story. If we can get that story straight, we'll be able to straighten out the world. Because we don't have a straight story now, we have nothing but a big lie. And it's operating all the time, 24/7. We try to tell the real story. The real story is nature-based, it's woman-centered, and that's borne out by all the evidence that I can see: archaeology, gene studies, the ancient texts, our own intuition, our own experience. The woman in the love culture of 100,000 years ago was the center of it all, because she had great attractiveness, as women do today. They're absolutely beautiful, stunning, when we see with love eyes, with clear eyes. Therefore, in the love culture, this is where it began. There was, once upon a time, there was a woman, and she was the great lover. She created everything. In fact, everything is her body. And she is like dancing in place. She's dancing in place. You know, her legs are moving, arms. She's twirling around, her hair is twirling, and her dress in the wind. And she's dancing and singing and telling a story. There's all movement. Sometimes you see the pictures of gods and goddesses doing that, this dance of life. Well, this is where the story starts. There was a woman like that, a great woman, a great lover, and she's really representing all of us. And that's where it starts. There's no, she's always existed. And everything is a manifestation of her life. And here in this motorhome, we got all these cards and pictures around us. These are all manifestations of love. This is all about the lover. Each card here, and there's 52 of them, it's a card deck of 52, is telling about an aspect of love. And it's really about the lover who all of us are. Now, these cards have a positive and a negative side. There's a back side. We're seeing the for side, but there's a see me side to it too. There's a back side, a negative side. We don't emphasize that, but we're always aware of the negative culture and our own, And so in the love government too, they would have been aware also of a negative side, because it's kind of always there in the background. But we don't emphasize it. We go for what we want, which is love. And the story that we're telling will contain that love. If we get the story and we implement it in ourselves, the love will just come within us. It'll just bubble up from inside, like a stream or like a well. The ancient texts talk about this all the time. How love is like a well that bubbles up and comes up from inside of you. You don't have to really look for it anywhere, because it's inside of you. But you have to be able to tell the story, because the story will evoke it. And so that's what we're hoping to do here. We evoke the feeling of love. The waters of love will just come right up inside of us when we get it, when we see it. So this lover is dancing, and she's all alone at this point. She's self-contained. She's independent. She's a virgin. Because all of nature is that way at its base. It's called parthenogenesis. Partheno means virgin, and genesis means, of course, birth, generating birth. So the great lover woman is parthenogenic. She contains all things in herself, in her universal body. There's only her. And nature is like this. In fact, most of our body is like that. We're matrilineal, we're parthenogenic. Our cells divide and make children. There's no insemination required. Nature is mostly that way. It starts off parthenogenic, means virgin, as I said, birth. And only later on does nature, I want to say, like, experiment with sexuality. First it's this all-loving existence. And then we experiment with sex, where in order to preserve the species, a woman needs to be inseminated by a man. And that's called, sexuality, which is the way we got here, through sex. In the story, then, where does creation come from? It comes out of the body of the woman in a natural way, because this is what they're experiencing. It comes out from between her legs. Her life-giving waters come out from her, through her vulva, through her sacred vulva. This is the natural way. She sheds red blood every month, in more or less sync with the moon. And this is red water that comes out of her. And also another form of water comes out of her in sex. That's ejaculation of water. Clear water comes out of her urethra when the clitoris mostly is stimulated, when she's sexually turned on, orgasms and climaxes. Water comes out. So it's blood and water that flow out of the womb. Remember now, we're talking about the love culture. And it's very different than what we have today. We have a patriarchal anti-love culture today, run by power and money. And this original her story has been suppressed almost entirely. So even women today, most of them, have espoused patriarchal values, man values. Although they're trying to resist it now and overcome it through feminism and things like that. But the natural facts are that the woman gives her life out through her blood monthly and through her water whenever she has sex. Not always. They don't always. Women don't always ejaculate. They may orgasm without ejaculation. But most of the primal evil women did, because they were much more sexually acute than we are. Because sexuality in our culture has been pretty much repressed, or else acted out inappropriately. You don't have the story behind it to back it up. So from the woman comes life. The life was in the blood for this culture, and in the water. I mean, you can't have life without water. The garden here, you're not going to have a garden if you don't have water. And we have a water. We have a well water to water the garden. And the rains. It rained yesterday, and the rains will bring down the water for all of life. So when we come to the human species, the woman gives life through her blood. There's life in the blood, and there's life in the water. So water and blood flow from the woman in a natural way. That's how she nourishes herself, she nourishes other people, and she nourishes the earth through these sexual fluids. And they're sacred, they're sacramental fluids. Then the story proceeds, well, how, the people are, making up the story, many thousands of years, and they say, well, okay, that's fine. We understand that, but how did the children get here? How did that happen? Well, the story, and we can imagine now sitting around a campfire or something, and the storytellers would probably be the matrons of the community. There's three stages of a woman's life, or sexual life, and that's a maiden, a mother, and then a matron. Now here we have a maiden represented. This is a modern Indian, American Indian woman here on my right, if I got that right. Yeah, over there. Then the question would come up, well, how do we all get here? Okay, you understand about the lover and how she was nourishing us with her blood, because we know that happens. We're still doing that. Now remember, these people are doing sexual rites rituals in a communal context. They're very, very knowledgeable about sex, not unlike us, Many of us, anyway, are repressed and, guilty about it and shameful. No, they're wide open about it. They're open, communal. So they see how the blood comes out of a woman and the waters come out of a woman, and the waters come out of a man too in sexuality, but his semen is a little bit more unwaterly-like. It's more like oil. It's different anyway. But so they say, okay, we understand that. We're using the blood in our ceremonies, and we're using the water in our ceremonies. We paint the walls with it. And you still have today, you have red ochre representing the woman's menstrual blood, painted on the cave. Even around here, I've seen them. I just 2 months ago I saw it up around here. A cave, an Indian cave, American Indian, like this woman here, represented here, had red ochre on the walls, and they had a figure of a person. The red ochre comes back, and then in the Middle East, they've discovered, archaeology discovers paintings on the walls, and a lot of this red ochre around. Where they, but they got to get into the mindset of this. Science is bringing this out too. The male semen, for example, there's 50 different compounds, and most of them are health preservers. 50 different things, all in that seminal fluid, and the woman has similar things too. But the woman is not so much studied. The scientists today are mostly men, and naturally they're going to study the man rather than the woman. So, okay, so how did the babies come? Well, a woman, she ordinarily releases the blood in the water, right? If she retains it, she retains the blood, she retains it to make a baby. So people in the primitive mind said, okay, so we notice every once in a while the blood doesn't come out. What's that about? Why doesn't the blood come out? And then you put two and two together. The women are the ones that are usually thinking about this because they're so intimate with their bodies, and it's very important to them. So they count the moons. Gee, I noticed that 9 moons have passed, and then I have my belly gets big, and then I have a baby for 9 months. So the idea here is that the woman, by retaining the blood inside of her, she makes a baby out of the blood. Out of the blood, she makes a baby. And then the baby is born 9 months later, and that's how she then nourishes the community. So the original lover then would have a baby. It's mother-daughter, or in this case it would be mother-son. So the son is born, and then you have children. You have girls and boys, and girls and boys grow up to be men and women, and then the men and women start having sex with each other to make the babies, and that's how the story goes. But in the background of the story is the lover who creates everything, including babies, from her body. All right, we're going to come to the end now of this second episode, and we are kind of getting into the story, getting into the mindset of our lover ancestors, getting into their story, getting into their mindset, and then we will, apply it to ourselves. And we give some kind of a sexual sign, the sign of love. This is the hand is a sign of, because we make love with our hands, right? And we're going to get into the symbolism of the hand. We have in other places, but we'll continue to do so. Give a handshake, say hi and goodbye. So that's what we do. Really behind it all is love. Love and always love.